as opposed to say September 11th, 2023. If you click on it, it takes you to a notice for a special election that happened back in May for Ward 26. And as I said, there's no announcement on there about redistricting changes. There's maybe give or take about that, but there are still announcements about the special the Where Do I Vote link on the city site takes you to the Secretary of the State's polling place lookup. As I said, from my analysis, that information on the Secretary of the State's website, which uses the CVRS, that's accurate. But if there are any doubts about that, we should not be linking to it or asking voters to use that. The other issue with the Secretary of the State's website, it tells you what your polling place is for both municipal and state cycles. Okay, so if you don't know which of those cycles we are in, you could be in trouble because of the behavior of a lot of voters. Sorry. Okay. Is that okay? So if you don't know if you're a municipal cycle or a state congressional cycle, it's just like a Goldilocks. So, okay, I'm getting to it. So I think there is a certain amount of confusion that's baked in for September 12th. There's still some things that we can do, I think, to help voters at this point in terms of the communications and the signage. Hopefully, we can work on what happens on Tuesday and make some tweaks so we can get it right on November 7th for the general election. If I could, just a couple things with the charter revision. Okay. Again, I think this is all about consistent communication, education, and outreach. You know, and the responsibility here is not just with the registrars, it's primarily with registrars, all of you and all of us as advocates. Like I had seen a good one-page summary of all the charter changes, so I made one, right? And I was working on translating that into Spanish, and I'm happy to share that with you. There are some issues that the registrars need to, I think, consider. I think these were asked on the questions. The question on the ballot. Usually, anything that are over on the right-hand side, that is very easy to miss. A lot of people will miss it if they're not reminded for the referendum question when they come into the polls. The translation, they don't always translate text ballot questions into Spanish. That's good. Many cities don't do that. Last year, our translation of the ballot question regarding early voting was different from the translation used in a lot of other cities. Different than Hartford is. Maybe our translation was better. I just want to make sure that we're doing right by our English language first. And I would just point out too that, you know, in most cases, referenda need to get at least voters to approve them. We're not subject to that requirement. I don't believe, but I think in terms of getting a mandate for changes, last judgment on this is possible, and I'm worried about people that want to leave it blank. And I think that's where we're headed unless we do a little bit more education and outreach. So concluding, I don't think we need to look in the rear mirror at all the decisions that were made and deadlines that were missed and things like that with the redistricting. But I think it's fair to say that there's certain aspects of the process could probably have been handled better. Maybe we have some constructive hiring somebody in the Corporations Council office who is proficient in election law and see that could help with consultation with certain kinds of decisions being made. A lot of election laws in Connecticut have changed in the last few years. I think we don't want the city not running afoul of those laws be protected from legal exposure. So I think that's one way we could avoid these kinds of situations in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We will make note, or at least I make so hopefully some of those concerns will be addressed. And next up is Patricia Rossi. And after Patricia is Robert Gibson. And Patricia, before you can sit down.
Okay.
My colleague and my vice chair would like to just make a comment. Go ahead, Alderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank Mr. Good for that presentation. As I can speak for myself as alder, we are fully aware of the change in the district. And I personally go around and inform my constituents that the change affect them, where they will be doing. So it's a good practice. So to take the confusion out of us, we are being very proactive. I don't know, constituents. Where with redistricting has been effective, will then be positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Say. State your name and address for the record, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
My name is Patricia Rossi. I live at 165 Echo Street, New Haven, and I'm speaking tonight as the convener of the League of Women Voters of New Haven. I'm also the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Connecticut. And I mention that just because we get a lot of questions in one, as one person or the other, we get a lot of questions about elections. And I'm just here to say that I'm very glad, thank you for convening this workshop, because we are quite concerned that people don't know about the redistricting and they don't know where to show up next Tuesday. And I'm very glad that there's going to be a postcard going out, but it's Thursday night and it's a little bit late. One reason we all push so hard for early voting is that people need to have a voting plan in order to vote on a particular day. And if people find out, are reminded with this card on Tuesday morning that they need to vote, it's a primary, that's not going to give them time to make a voting plan. And in New Haven, we don't have the highest level of voter participation. Really want to improve that, and I think the way of improving that is to remind people over and over again that it's election day on the 12th, it's the election day on November 8th. So those things, I recognize there was confusion about the districts. I will say no one follows this stuff closer than I do. I'm kind of a nut about this because it's my job, and I stopped watching. I stopped, I'm going to wait until the chairs stop moving, musical chairs stop moving. And so if I feel like if I'm confused about it, I know a lot of other people are, and I'm getting a lot of emails and a lot of phone messages. I will say about, I'm so grateful that the assistant city clerk, thank you, was here because she's so knowledgeable, she's so good at all this stuff. And when we were talking about early voting and no excuse absentee ballot, and this isn't what tonight's subject is, I will tell you, I sit in the office in the League of Women Voters of Connecticut, and I've gotten so many phone calls about why, so we have no excuse absentee ballots this year. How are we going to do that? It's like, no, we don't. We're going to vote on it in November. But, and there's just a tremendous amount of confusion. I think it's partly because we don't have newspapers really well distributed anymore. So it puts more pressure on the registrar and on the city of New Haven to get the information out. So I agree with everything Aaron said about getting the information out. We really want people to participate, and we have to, make it a little bit easier for them to do that. On the charter question, even as much information as we have on early voting, with that question, the rest of the question was over on the right at the top. We had people in our polling place, Anna, who after they put their ballot in said, I was a tabulator clerk. I thought it was a ballot referendum question. I didn't see it. So we need to let people know where it is and what it means. We know that if people don't know what it means, they'll vote no. The alders want these changes. And so we need to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Robert Gibson. Good evening. Mr. Gibson, if you could state your name and address for the record, please, and then go into your testimony, we'd appreciate it.
My name is Robert Gibson. I live at 84 Colony Road in New Haven. Before I get to the point I wanted to address, I've heard some things addressed about forming I've been a poll worker in New Haven for almost every election since 2008. And whenever there's been a referendum question on the ballot, often people do come and don't know it. And so I think there needs to be a more concerted effort to inform the public about what the questions are, so that when they arrive, they know. I know at times some of the workers have tried to explain to voters. I'm not sure we're supposed to do that. We don't tell them how to vote, but sometimes it's long, complex, and people don't understand. So I think there needs to be a way to make it simple, short, very visible on the ballot, so that people know how to vote. But I think they need to be informed in advance of voting, so they will already know where their position may be on the issue and will know what to do when they get there. I think there needs to be a more concerted effort, not just through postcards, but through the media, the Register, the Independent, radio, contacting churches and other religious organizations to inform their constituents about the ballot questions, so they'll be more informed by the time they get there and will be able to vote based on what they already know. My purpose in coming here today, I don't know if it's too late to bring this up, but when I read in the newspapers about the ballot question, the referendum, and how it was formatted, I had a very serious concern. I wrote a letter to my local person, and it was shared with a few others. But I think I'll just read the letter. That'll be the best way to address this. I'm sending this letter to register my strong opposition to a vote approved unanimously by the Board of Aldermen last week to bundle several different charter reform proposals into a single ballot question. The community is divided over whether the mayor and the alders should both have 4-year terms. People should have the right to determine whether they want one or both positions to have a term of 4 years. That right of choice has now been stripped from the people by a vote of 23 alders. Rationale provided to the public that this decision keeps the referendum process simple is unacceptable and insulting to most voters who are fully capable of handling 4 or more ballot questions addressing mayoral, aldermanic, city town clerk terms of office and raises for members of the Board of Alders. The response that bundling somehow makes it simpler for voters is rather absurd and unacceptable to many in the community. Aldermen are elected to represent the interests of their constituents, not their personal views. The Board of Alders poll members of their board to consent to the public sentiment regarding such an important matter as revising the city charter. The Board of Alders should facilitate the rights of people to vote separately on these important issues and not obstruct the voice or will of the people to make specific choices, not to make simple choices, not simply yes or no on a single multi-faceted proposal. Is there any way to rectify this matter to allow all voices to be heard, including those who may not approve every item combined in one omnibus referendum? As it stands, many of us feel this ballot question is an insult to democracy, free choice, and the residents who value the right of free choice. So my my issue is that since there are so many different things on the referendum question, and each one varies somewhat, by putting everything together into one yes or no question on the ballot, to many of us, we feel it's not fair. Because, as I said in the letter, some people feel strongly that the mayor should get 4 years or no. Same thing with the way it stands now, you don't have a choice. You've got to vote both to get 4 years or vote no for neither to get 4 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Gibson, I think it's too late to change it. I think the vote took place, and it sounds like the information we received this evening from the clerk's office and registrar's office and the questions is that the referendum has been sent to Hartford for approval.
Well, in my opinion, that's unfortunate. And if I had known about the hearings addressing the referendum, the ballot question, and the referendum for change, I would have expressed my views previously. But I think it is really unfair because what will happen, what may happen is those that don't want one or the other to get 4 years will vote no altogether. And those that may have wanted the mayor to get 4 years, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel it was really it's a disappointment to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments. Questions or comments from committee members? Alderson, did you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Gibson, for those testimony. And the charter revision, the Board of Alders, they had 2 or 3 public hearings and that matter and entertained, the public opinion question and whatever testimony the charter revision. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Alderson. That concludes our written names. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Come on up. And it is our former Alderman, Happy Ron. Welcome.
Hi, Abby Ross, 42 Lincoln Street. I want to thank the previous speaker. I agree 100% with what he said. I actually asked that you please check with the Secretary of State's office if it actually is too late to change. I mean, as we know very well, with the change with the word lines, I think it happens every 10 years, and I will pause and when this be changed. I have additional concern, and I also look at the statement when this was passed saying that this makes it easier for voters to understand what's going on. The language, as I understand it, that we are going to see, hopefully see on the ballot, if people see where it's located, is the charter changes as recommended by the Charter Revision Commission and adopted by Board of Alders, be approved and adopted. That is really concerning to me. That's not true. This happens every 10 years. Really big issue about how our city runs. That, if nothing else, like, even if I agree 100% they shouldn't be bundled, but even if you go forward with the bundling, articulate everything. How can someone know what so I ask you to please consider that. The word lines, I very much appreciate the testimony from Good and Rossi, and agree also with everything they said. I think Aaron had outstanding suggestions for how to deal with it. It is going to be really tough on our day. I mean, I'm in a ward where people have been Ward 7, Wards 1, 2, 3, and 6, and people from Ward 21 now are Ward 7. And I really wish the registrar of voters had been here to hear the suggestions. That's her job year after year, and she didn't show up. She could have planned and prioritized job is hearing these things and being able to share her thoughts. And I just find it really concerning that people aren't going to have time. So I hope these messages that Erin suggested get brought forth to her to really have people there waiting out these lines, informing people that they may be at the wrong place, and also using the media as much as possible. And we got clarity. I mean, we won't get into that. There was lots of back and forth, but a week ago today, it was clear again until today that the registrar's website put anything out there. It still has the May 3rd hearing, the election until today. How can that take a week? And the postcards haven't arrived, so it could easily miss a postcard. And the idea that you can call, you don't know to call if you don't even know redistricting is something that can happen. Honestly, I think going forward, there should be discussion if the registrar, if someone should take over for them. It is too important for people to share information. Voting is fundamental, and year after year, it's done poorly, and it really matters redistricting. And I just really worry about that. I'll leave it at that. Everyone else has been so articulate, but I do hope that you'll consider asking the Secretary of State if it really is too question. It's once every 10 years for really decisions. I mean, I think we all want to make informed decisions about how our government runs, and as really right now, we all lose that. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item? For a second time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? For a third time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one, I just want to add a couple of things. Voting is fundamental. It is our basic right. And the reason we live in the United States of America is because every one of us who are citizens have the right to vote. And we as women, me as a woman, I vote every election. Why? Because we were later in the voting process. And for anyone to be denied that right is just a sin. So please, this is a reminder for all of you sitting out there to remind others to vote in the primaries, to vote in the general election. You know, my parents came to this country for democracy. And if we don't practice democracy as citizens of the city and this country, then shame on us. So I appreciate everyone's testimony this evening on this topic. And with that, we will move on to item number 1. Oh, continue.
Alderman, you have a comment? Yes, thank you. I just wanted to comment that I appreciate all the testimony. This is also the second time since I've been on the board that the registrar has not shown up to a hearing related to something that's happening in their office. I think that really is unacceptable. And we need to arrange for that office to come and present before this primary. But we need for them to come. We can't have pals with them. We need to have a proper hearing. And not only for them to hear the suggestions, but to address a lot of the questions. A lot of what's in these responses concerns me. And a lot of the answers are not at all complete. So I think we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that they are at a future workshop. I just think it's very, very important that we can't just sort of allow it to continue in this way.
Well, if we want, we can have them come in for our October meeting. And maybe in October, we can have them explain how the election went and how we're preparing for the November election. So I will ask our leadership if that is possible.
Okay, that sounds good. I would just add that I think we've heard a lot about outreach and education and what that really looks like. And so I would be interested in hearing what is the outreach and education that broadly to understand what we can expect and what's not going to happen. That we need an advocacy where the gaps actually are, and what else we might ask that office going forward.
Thank you. Are we reading it part of this? Let's see. Okay. So can we have a discussion on this when it's time to vote on read and file? Yes, and that's why I'm addressing it. Can it wait till we discuss, vote on it to read and file?
Just a quick comment, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Alderson.
I just, on record, I am concurrent, agreeing with my colleague that the voter registration need to be there. And,
Thank you for saying. Okay, so our item is resolution of new board laws. Is it you, Mr. Piscatelli, for this item? So it's LM 2023-0346. So anyone who will be speaking on behalf of item number 1, please come forward. And as a reminder, please state your name and address for the record, and then you can go into your presentation. Do you have material for us? It looks like we do.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you so much for your time tonight. My name is Michael Piscatelli. I'm the Economic Development Administrator for the City of New Haven, and I reside at 353 Summer Street.
Malachi Bridges, 200 Foxen Hill Road.
Carlos Izire, 244 McKinley.
I just want to start by expressing our gratitude to the alders and to our state delegation for supporting a wide range of grant applications and programs generally. You sort of pick up in an they used to reprogram with the American Rescue Plan. And sometimes, I think we focus on what's specifically coming through the city's offers, right? And it's in our budget, it's a direct grant to the city, so it's very tangible to us. But one thing our team has worked really hard at is across the lens at the various stimulus programs that might be coming out from federal agencies, from state agencies, and both of the items before you tonight kind of relate to the broader stimulus around the nation. And we're really honored in this particular case. This is a proposal under the state's Community Investment Fund program. In furtherance of some of the board's goals, namely affordable housing and neighborhood development. The St. Luke's project has been with us for some time. A way to unlock that. Malachi and Carlos are going to talk a little bit about the project itself and how it sort of fits the puzzle pieces, if you will, on the city side and in support of folks and the Housing Authority. And I just ask that as you're listening to the presentation, think about it. This one's on Whately. We had a Ashman Canal earlier this week. Very shortly, we'll be at 16 Miller Street, 34 West. So although they can't individually, we know that things are happening citywide. And I'm happy to answer any questions on local specifics of St. Luke's, but then just generally how these pieces are starting to come together.
Thanks. He's really worked hard on this. We did a little work on this application, so we really got it well. So I'll fill in any gaps, but I think he's
Yeah. So much older. So this application is to the state of Connecticut, and then the city of New Haven will pair that grant award. It was $250,000 ARPA money from our new commercial account. That Mike mentioned all passed. 5 specific commercial districts. So 250,000 will be dispersed on Wheatley Avenue to assist with some of the costs of facade improvement. And we're going to get into that as we move on. This application is for a roadway and infrastructure improvement. Second is for which we intend to allocate $1.5 million. The second is for streetscape and facade improvement, which we have $650,000. And the third is for gap filling to Glendower and St. Luke's Development Corp. $6 million, so that they can finish and continue the construction of their affordable housing unit, which around greater than 50% affordable, as it's 55 units and 45 units are affordable for 38. The outcomes of this proposal, which are pretty obvious, they create permanent and temporary jobs for construction workers, also the housing community mixed use. So it will be commercial and residential and commercial level, creating 3,800 square feet of commercial space. So in those, you have tenants, retailers that will also create a pipeline for more jobs. It will also increase road and sidewalk safety, increase accessibility, as we will be redoing or repairing some of our sidewalks, and we'll be adding access ramps, bolster energy efficiency, and development, and improve pathways, some of the programming being done by the housing authority, and provide a community garden and other amenities, and specifically provide affordable housing to parts of this application. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a highly diverse neighborhood, almost and listed here. These are the breakdowns of the community. So providing housing, providing education will bolster the economic activity and equity of all sides. Moving into the specifics of the proposal, the roadway and infrastructure would be repaving, repaving the roadway from Whaley Avenue from Howe to Ella, and also installing critical intersection and roadway traffic, and to increase the visibility of pedestrians and cyclists. We know that is a major problem due to the number of accidents and the number of accidents which involve a pedestrian or cyclist. Is the streetscape improvement I mentioned earlier. We will be repairing and replacing sidewalks, also adding some signage lighting was a big request from the local community. And we'll also move more vegetation and planting, and then lastly, of course, the $1 project. And as you see here, these are the economic outcomes of the full Whaley Avenue build out. Paid 400 new jobs, new and commercial space on that 1,000 square feet of open green space and over 370 of which we will be affordable. And that's just a budget item there to show you the breakdown in costs. And this map here is a plan improvement. So it's just a rendering, a visual of what we hope will build out like. It hinges on some of the current initiatives that are happening in Whaley, such as the Move Pavement and the MRT, which is executed by the state right now, which in 6 years the state will hope to reclaim Whaley Avenue at Sherman and Whaley for their MRT program, which will be a street across Whaley to the west of the communities. If anyone wants to jump in, if I want to talk too much about it. And then project one just goes into more detail. So, as mentioned, we did a lot of questioning, a lot of stakeholder involvement, and so did St. Luke's and Glendower. Glendower and St. Luke's went envisioning sessions. And this is a lot of the feedback that we got back, along with some statistics on our traffic department. As well, so there was 935 accidents on Whaley, and this is across 5 years. 60 of those, the victims of a cyclist industry. As you know, that is very unsafe, especially the pedestrian or cyclists. So to improve the safety and the non-driver visibility, we hope to make these improvements such as the repaving of Whaley, along with stretch. We hope to install 2 raised intersections at the intersection of Whately Orchard and Whately and Sperry. We also hope to install signage signals for pedestrians. Also, this is admittedly hope to install a refuge island in the middle of Whately Avenue. So Whately Avenue is a very large roadway, very wide roadway, which causes speeding, of course, and causes illegal parking. So we hope to reclaim some of that roadway for pedestrian safety. So in the middle of westbound and eastbound, we hope to install a pedestrian island at which pedestrians when crossing the street could stop at the island to wait for clearance so that they can continue. The next image is just a visual rendering of that. And you see the orange sort of thermoplastic on asphalt are the raised intersections. And the raised intersections, I believe, would require 5 to 10 miles per hour. They're not a speed bump, so they're a little bit more for drivers. But yes.
Can you just see where this is the stop and shop crossing, right? So people, you can see the people crossing their path that isn't actually an intersection, but at the stop and shop. So if you just drift by there, you know what it's like with people crossing the blind stop and shop, and hence a lot of the retailers. That I think you need to just don't want to undersell that effect. You can see that drawing really shows we go in places where we see a lot of folks crossing the block or not even crossing.
But what we see as labeled G, the painted median, that's just paint. It's not actual raised median.
Right. Correct. So as I mentioned earlier, the state is going to consume a far good portion of Whately. However, the state has not yet notified us as to which side of Whately they anticipate taking for the BRT program, whether it's westbound or eastbound. So as a result, we have to kind of stall our comprehensive prioritization so that it's conducive to the state's wishes. But after that 6-year period, we will replace the state will assist us with that too, with replacing the whole. The next page is just some more state initiatives with as pictured here. They anticipate doing a dedicated bus lane for restricted access to buses so that they can have non-stop service. But as I mentioned, they don't know whether that lane will be on westbound or eastbound. And then the next rendering is just a planted area of that mid-block crossing that Carlos just mentioned at the stop and shop, is where there is the most activity, pedestrian and walking activity at that intersection. Project 2, the streetscape improvement, the city and Glendower will be working together to assist some of the business owners on Whately with facade improvement. So the city currently has a facade improvement program. However, it's not utilized some like in specifically for some barriers such as capital. So you need a lot of capital and other burdens or limitations of the application. So we hope that this funding would supplement some of the funding needed for upfront capital. So that's where $50,000 comes in. And then the additional $500,000 would assist with replacing the sidewalk with signage and boulders, vegetation, trees, etc. The next to streetscape improvements just gets into more detail of some consulting work we had done with Justin O'Neill and Period Associates, assisted us with doing some of our visioning and planning as to what we hope to do for a lot of these districts, to keep them consistent, but also to make sure they're beautiful as well. So these are some of the trees that we currently have in Whately that we hope to replicate along with it. Some of the lighting, some of the signage, some of the parks as well, and furniture, and the public art as well. The public art we currently have auto. So we hope to do something similar in some of our other districts. And again, this consultation study here is consistent with most of our districts. So we hope to replicate this same type of street improvement in almost all of our commercial districts. That's one of our biggest so this improvement will be specific to Wayne, but it will be pretty consistent throughout our neighborhood commercial district. The next photo just shows another rendering with an aerial view. The next one just shows another one. And then alternatively, you can see the existing facades along Whaley. And these are just only a few, so there's some that need a lot more help than this. We have the Paramount Liquors that is now vacant and closed, as well. We hope to reactivate assist with that as well. But these are just these facades that would use that could use some help with the facade improvement program. And we shifted away from doing singular individual facade improvements because we wanted them to look a lot more comprehensive and transformative as opposed to going to business owners who have the means. So that's really what this $250,000 has. These are some of the successes.
We can pause there too, right?
Yeah.
So the full deck that you have is in your article as well. We have another testimony tonight. You may have some questions about this one. So just remind me, is there anything in the last summary slides that we
Just a quick ability about them.
And that's probably the most important part of this proposal.
If you can imagine.
Is the gap financing on the St. Glenn development at 129 Whaley Avenue. So the current buildings at that down, remediate the site, the land, and that they already received an EPA grant, and they already received city plan approval, I believe, after 23. So critically saying, and they just have a $6 million gap to assist New Haven's housing. And one of our biggest critiques is so much growth and movement in New Haven, but a lot of the New Haveners or people who are at low economic status see it or experience it because they're stuck where they're stuck at, right? So this affordable housing complex is an opportunity so that New Haveners, specifically low income New Haveners, can experience the beautification of New Haven as well.
And you can see the rendering in that, which really fits with the overall campus feel of things together over the years. All are really very. And what we really like about this application is, well, you would recall the one years ago. It was sort of a standalone project, and so all of the streetscape and the furnishings were really just for that building at the corner. And the way Malachi and the Housing Authority, the teams put it together, it'll feel more like just part of the environment of Whaley Avenue, which we think is a really strong selling point of the application, coupled with the fact that the project's ready to go. So it has its permits, the project is designed. These are the puzzle pieces, and the last little bit of this $35 million project. But when they are housing project, our own partnership, there's a funding gap. And, this would close that gap. And the way we found this DIF program in the state is they move the contracting quickly. So if we were fortunate to be awarded, I think we can feel good about the fact that there would be a grant agreement in place by the end of the year. So we're excited about where this could go fairly quickly.
And the next page is the last bit. It's just the building at elevations and then it shows the units. So as you can see, as I mentioned, there's 49 affordable units and then 6 market rate units, so 55 units total. The affordable range from 30 to 80% AMI. And one thing I loved about this proposal was that There's a great number of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units specifically for families. That was another big critique of that affordable housing that we have available. The 2 to 20% affordable housing are typically studios and 1 bedroom, not really suitable for families. So, families and we're really accommodative with that. And then the last few pages are the budget, but who cares about that?
I do.
And happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much for the time and the opportunity to walk through some details. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he got it in the beginning too. I think that's why I was saying.
Yeah, just to make sure we understand the scope of this project, and because it's a lot of money we're talking about, and it's good to understand that, I see here the 8 million, it's the grant request and the ARPA funds. Our responsibility is the 250,000, which you said in the beginning. That's, so we're understanding that.
And then the 1.5 million for the construction, for roadway improvement and infrastructure. The 500,000 of the grant for construction of the streetscape improvements, and then our 250 was that. And then the final 6 million request out of the 8 million budget would be going to the gap for
Thank you for all this information, for your very well presented presentation. Of course, I always have questions, as you will learn. And, I guess this grant was applied for.
The deadline for this one, I think, was late June, right? So it's been in the hopper and under consideration, yes.
We have not yet received it, though.
We have not, the state has their own process where it's administratively reviewed at DBCD and through various state agencies. It will then go to what they call the CIF board and then to the governor's office for final recommendation. And we expect that process to be released.
How is it looking for us in receiving these funds?
So I wouldn't forecast that in any way. There's a process there. So we're hopeful. We think it's a strong application, particularly in terms of it being ready to go, and that the puzzle pieces fit very well together in terms of both the design and the strength on the affordable housing side. But I wouldn't necessarily forecast this. There are a number of strong applications statewide and state.
When will the decision be made?
15. I think the
15 amount looks like they pushed it up.
September?
Yes, so initially it was supposed to be the 15th of September, but they just pushed back their meeting. So it is starting to look like the end of September.
And what happens if we are not granted?
So we've actually been very successful with a number of applications. We're well over 200 grants, successful grant applications. We don't win them all. Often we go through a debrief process with the state, so we look to see where there were gaps, they can be strong relative to other applications, but there will be a complete attempt to find a source to get these projects off the ground. So we'll go back up the ladder, either through CIF or challenge or a federal source, but we're hopeful that this will get through this round.
Because you mentioned that we're at but we don't have money. And we won't know until possibly the end of September. If we don't get the money, it's a big question mark there. But I guess you answered that one partially because it doesn't guarantee us all these funds if we're not awarded.
Otherwise, please don't ruin our narrative. We are ready to go, but we have some gap funding. And if it doesn't come through, we will try to keep everything ready, as close to ready to go as possible for the next one.
Can you explain that gap process? Because the way I understand it is they don't have enough money to do this project, so they need help from a source. So, and this is just, I have to ask these questions. If this project was presented and a sum total was presented or understood of what the total project cost would be, wasn't the gap already realized and changed the standards, or how is this?
So globally, right? So housing authority is not here necessarily go through exact details, but globally, it's kind of the same in all of our projects. Because of the rents are underwritten and lower than your market rent, any debt on the property following construction can only carry, there's only so much income that's going to carry that debt, if you will. So our goal during the construction phase is to identify enough equity sources, cash, that does not need to be repaid in order that it opens out during the stabilization phase. So in this particular project, like many, there's only so many ways you can cut the budget because our affordable housing rules create a very high quality standard for the resident during the construction phase. So, we can prevent paying, the prevailing wage or monthly certain level of finishing. 16 Mill Street requires passive house standards, so it's a high level of environmental sustainability. So that comes with price, right? And there's only so much that the rents down the road are going to support. It's affordable. So that's very high level, but it's no different than with Ashburn Canal, where about $3 million and $60 million. I think we close that a little bit more creatively by dealing with the brownfield. So there's environmental contamination and that all this gap. We dealt with that through brownfield.
Will we get paid back any of these funds eventually? Because I'm sure they're getting abatements, deferrals, and all of that as well. So, it's going to be $6 million to fill the gap for building, plus is there a tax deferral?
So there's an agreement on taxation with this project, like all our affordable housing project, right? I would suggest we always look at these through the broader lens. The city has led the state in overall economic performance now 3 straight years, right? Which is creating a healthy grid. State market budget, paying for police and firefighters. But if we don't do projects like this, a lot of the other things that are happening in the city won't happen, right? It has to be funded. So yeah, on a direct one-to-one basis, do we get repaid for this project? No, you won't see that necessarily in the general fund. But you're seeing a much stronger Whaley Avenue. Right? And I think, if you're the Marriott on Whaley Avenue, arguably you're at a competitive disadvantage with your peer set because Whaley Avenue, we have work to do, right? So thousands of crashes on the road. So doing projects like this support the residents at Marriott, and they're doing a full renovation of that hotel, which is going to be very cost. You just won't see it with this project, right? But you'll see it on a higher tax payment by Marriott.
And I get that. I'm just playing devil's advocate because we have residents that do have concerns sometimes with some of these deferrals, abatements, et cetera. And we need to have a clear picture because St. Luke's and Glendale, they're developers. I mean, they charge rent. Every month they get a check, whether it be directly deposited into their bank account or subsidized from the renter. And this is by no means me being against affordable housing. It's part of our legislative agenda here on the Board of Alders. We know that we need the housing for our residents. And I was happy to see, and I'm glad you brought up the AMR, because that's something that I am always very, very, very concerned about. And I'm happy to see that there's actually 12, seeing that correctly, AMI of 0 to 30%. Because that is really what our residents need in this city. Yeah. And what we're lacking, even the 31 to 50% AMI on 7 units. But even with all of that, the developers get subsidized somehow for the remainder of the rent. They get a deposit every month. So I'm just trying to understand how that all works. It's a lot of moving pieces. We don't have to talk about it today. But those are, the concerns that I have, residents have, is how are the developers being, because this is public funding, do we get to see their finances? The public information as to what their monthly income is, quarterly, yearly, whatever? Do we get to see that because of this?
So there is a budget and a pro forma for this project, and you can get a little copy of it, so you've got a summary version of what that looks like, including what we call the developer's fee, the fee for all the work that goes into securing the project. And then what, quite frankly, is on through the maintenance and repair and the operation of the building down the road, which is the stabilization phase. To your point, probably a better conversation with, say, the Affordable Housing Commission. They can walk through it in great detail. But these gaps are real, and we're in a fortunate time where there's some opportunities to fill the gaps rather than a project drift at a time of great.
And, just to get a better understanding too, how was Glendale and St. Luke's chosen? Was there an application process, or was it something that you wanted to work with?
St. Luke's did their first project more quickly. This project being a little bit taller, a little bit larger, entered into the relationship with Glendower as part of looking for a development partner. Other development partners are on in the same space. This partnership is actually worked out pretty well for both parties.
Okay, but did they have to apply for it? I'm just looking at the big picture, like, did we have a process or?
Each other on this one.
I'm not that familiar with how they found each other. However, St. Luke's owned most of, if not all the parcel. I think, no, they own all the parcels. So it's their project.
So it's a private, it's not a public.
Their
Okay.
project, and
Okay.
I think they kind of partnership that would allow them to get this project done. So it's been on for 20 years. Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to get this done. So
Yeah, I remember this. But I guess for this particular grant, did they have to help apply for it?
So what will happen is we are the applicant. So the innovative is the applicant. If we are awarded, we will be, the grant will go in two directions. The $2 million or so coming into the streetscape, all that will go to the city's special fund account. And the $6 million will be a pass-through, which will go to Glendower St. Luke's to as part of the project.
But did they have to apply to us to receive
We
this?
just batched it all together.
no, they don't apply. I think your question is, so, right, I mean, it's not an exact science. I think it's, we have, 20 or 30 projects on the table, and all of, we've gone on to all this which ward. And so, and then, we sort of try to make that kind of informed decision on impact, and also talking with others at the state, talking with the mayor, talking with the office from the neighborhood. And so there's no formal application process to become a CIP.
And then also, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
just wanted to add that the developers are deferring their fee, so they won't see their fee until years to come. I just wanted to add that in.
Committee members, any questions?
I have a comment and a question. My comment is I hear the concerns of my colleague, but I also am very aware of how difficult it is to get the numbers work on these projects. And I think when we have a project like this one that comes from the grassroots and has been in development for many, many years, often what we need is this ability to come forward with a partner, and that's what I see here. So I really appreciate you doing that. This project, which I know is needed and difficult to make the financials work. My question is just a much smaller one about facade improvement. So is the idea to use the dollars so that the businesses don't have to pay a match? Is that?
Yes.
So it's easier to have lower barrier to access. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
You answered mine about the affordable.
No, the project is, I think, one that supports, our legislative agenda with the number of affordability. I'm glad it's not all 60 to 80% or even to 100%, because I feel like we get a lot of those projects. This is actually addressing the real concerns that our board wants to focus on. And I'm happy to see that Whaley Avenue, I know that there's been a project going on for a long time to redo Whaley Avenue, and although I don't have any constituents in that ward, I get questions on it because there are a lot of people in the city that live on that road and how dangerous it can be, and the speeding, et cetera. Sometimes that you are addressing all of that. And, if colleagues don't have any further questions, I thank you for the presentation. Thank you for this project. And please keep us posted on whether we get this grant, because it's an important one that addresses a lot of, actually probably a few things on our legislative agenda. It really addresses a lot of the concerns that our board has. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this, the only thing I'm going to do is ask if the public has comments. Does the public have any comments, any testimony, would like to testify on this item? Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this item? For a third time, is there anyone from the public that would like to testify? Please come forward. Okay, seeing no one. If you're staying for the next presentation, you're welcome. If not, you're free to go. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to item number 2.
Thank you.
Good evening. And as you hand out, I'm just going to remind folks again to state name and address for the record. Yes.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Piscatelli, and I'm the Economic Development of the City, and I reside at 343 Summer Street.
Louis Meyer, small contractor development program administrator, 20 Brooklyn Pine Road.
Diana McCarthy, principal for Earth Family Group, 18 Ranch Road, Woodbridge.
I just want to thank you again for your time today. Team's going to walk you through the grant application. But in some ways, I think this merits a little bit of like imagination, because I do think sometimes we see construction happening in the field all the time. However, heavy difficulty with weather, hot weather like today. But last year, our team here convened 20 of our small contractors sitting around the table in room G2, 200 Orange Street, who were certified in environmental efficiency, learning programs. You were holding up a paint can to explain what is recyclable and what is not. And I wish I had a picture of it because it explained the commitment we're seeing from our small contractors to understand that the world is changing around them. How important it is for everyone to get to speed, because if you're a prime contractor or you're working for someone else, there is then the expectation that everyone is handling the materials with best practice, that is fully versed on environmental protection and sustainability. And I'm just really fortunate that we've had the qualities and capabilities and invested the time such that our team of contractors are brought into this, such that they'll be competitive when they get our jobs down the road. So with that,
The grant application that you have before you tonight is with the United States Department of Energy, part of their overall nationwide program to upgrade housing in the country. We have an enormous amount of residential, commercial buildings that are just very, very old. And so luckily, the United States Department of Energy undertook this multi-year project, to say that we need to upgrade our buildings and make them energy efficient and more affordable for homeowners to live in an energy efficient environment. And this application is for phase 1 of this overall multi-year project. And phase 1 is the design and development of what we feel we can do and offer to our community. Diana, who actually is one of our wonderful assistants and partners in this, and actually was the mastermind behind our conscious program last year. Yes, where we had an amazing amount of contractors realizing that if they want to be competitive, if they want to bid in the environment today, they have to understand what green and sustainability is. Our city bid documents are all including heat pumps, energy smart devices. And if we want our contractors, our small local contractors, to be competitive and bid, they have to know what we're asking for. And it's becoming mandatory. And we realize that we need to be able to offer training and assist them as well as to our community.
Thank you for hearing our presentation this evening. So the Buildings Up program really is about addressing existing houses, existing residential units, and helping them to upgrade so that they become more energy efficient, they'll use less affordable, more comfortable for residents throughout the year, and they're going to be healthier. And so we designed a program that really is a four-pronged approach. It's about engaging members of the community, community-based organizations, and developing a really strong outreach program. It's about educating residents about what resources are available. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of the energy efficiency and weatherization programs that are in the state are like a best kept secret. And there's a lot of work that we can do. The state has weatherization goals to have 80% of homes weatherized by 2030. Not sure we're going to get there. And the city of New Haven has goals to reduce our energy emissions 55% from our 2001 baseline, by 2030. So this project feeds into that. It supports the city goal, and it also helps better control their energy consumption and their energy burden. So this project, when the grant opportunity came across the email, we thought, we have a really good opportunity and a strong application here. And so we reached out to some of our neighborhood partners, our community-based partners, and identified a first location where we could possibly deploy this program. Building Up is also about scaling out. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? We can't attack everything all at once, get our resources too far. So it's about targeting one community and looking to engage and educate. From there, we want to work with our contractors who are part of the small contractors development program to continue to fill the gap of knowledge and training so that the work can be done by the community for the community, and that the program and the community it's going to serve. So that was really by design. Those contractors will continue their training in weatherization, in energy auditing, building science principles, healthy housing principles, a lot of great training that's out there now to empower them to be able to do work. Technology like this is constantly evolving, right? And I have solar in a battery, but I've been working in that field since 2005, and I just got it a couple of years ago. It takes a lot to really understand energy and efficiency. We have to crack that nut. So, working with the contractors, working with local community-based organizations to make sure everybody's empowered and educated to talk about the programs and the resources available. That is built into the DNA of this project, and that will be scalable entire in time. The last piece after the evaluation is about empowering residents to move forward with energy upgrades. I don't know about you, but I definitely have the privilege of being a United Illuminating customer. It has for quite some time, and gosh, to get to get that first bill after we did our weatherization work, placed our windows and insulation, and got solar and saw regular bills, $16 a month, that felt great, but it took a lot for us to get there. There are incentives for weatherization. There are incentives for those deeper measures like heat pumps and insulation, and you almost need an advanced degree to understand those programs. So part of this partnership is about training all of our community partners and our community-based organizations and our neighbors about what it all means. And on the back end, doing some funding braiding so that these programs, these upgrades, and the measures for the homes are affordable, are low in cost. Heat pumps can be expensive. Installation can be expensive, right? And we could not have done it in our house if we didn't have funding and incentives that were available through this program. So, there's a great opportunity here to work together and continue the group work. We've started by targeting the Fairhaven community because based on the Justice 40 initiative, which is the criteria it's using right now to decide how they're going to allocate their funding for programs, the community really did tick a lot of the boxes. And that drew our attention to, wow, there's a great opportunity to provide something here to an underserved community. And so that's our commitment. Okay.
Anyone want to add anything? We open it up for questions. Okay. I mean, it sounds like thank you for the presentation. Sounds like a great program. This again is a grant that is being applied for or has been applied for. When will that be out? When will we find out?
The tentative the delivery date will be the end of September.
And say that we are awarded this grant. How will it be implemented? Who will implement it? What are the next steps after that?
Sure. This grant is a phase 1 to help the team design the program comprehensively. So we have 12 to 18 months. They can do it in a shorter period of time. You get some technical assistance so that you can really design the framework. The training of the contractors and the design of the training of the community-based organizations and collaboration with the other industry partners.
Okay, so nothing is going to happen to those 1 to 4 family homes just yet.
We can pilot. We can pilot some of the work in a handful of homes.
There are grants available to homeowners now. Will you work with those homeowners to maybe apply for those grants? So that's all part of the training?
Yes, that's what you want. You really want to, when the low level term is funding braiding. They really want us to identify all of the different grants, incentives, loans, other opportunities, tax credits, everything that can be pooled together to make the program and make the upgrades very low to no cost.
And once these contractors are actually trained, once they move with phase 1, will there be a list of contractors somewhere where even your regular homeowner can contact, knowing that they are full of this information?
As you've heard so much today, how important the website is. On the SCD website, we currently list the contractors who are registered in our program. And then once we have the new trained list, that will also be there because I get very many times I get a phone call saying, a homeowner, I am looking for someone who can paint my house that I can trust. And so I can't give them a name, but I can give them a list of everybody who's registered in our program. And that's going to be a big incentive for these homeowners. Diana did mention, which is going to be very significant, is that we're also doing the program in Spanish.
Awesome.
Yes, so we're focusing on bilingual because we know that there is an underserved community that is afraid, that doesn't know where to ask questions, And then being able to have our bilingual contractors and training and bilingual information on all the grants will be the big group.
And how do contractors apply? Their application process?
To be a part of the
Yes,
program.
yes.
What Lily's department has done typically is notify all of the contractors who are already participating in the small contractor development program. There's an opportunity for training, and it's pretty welcome to training, but we've done some recruitment for the Spanish-speaking contractors throughout the community to increase more participation. So,
If I can boast for a moment, the program that the owners passed many, many years ago is an amazing program. And it has done very, very well statewide. Actually, New England has one of the very few programs that does what we do for our local small contractors. And we have an application process, and the application is online. And anyone who's interested, sometimes I'm called, I don't market our program as much as I should. I don't always boast about the program, yes. But any New Haven County contractor can come and apply. And once they apply, they get emails right to their door, to their computer, that tells them about every single job that's available in New Haven. You know, I mean, they don't have to market, they don't have to go look in the paper. All they have to do is look at their computer.
So where do residents find information? Is it on our website?
It will be once we get, if we're fortunate enough, which I hope we will be.
And even the contractors that are already, you mentioned a list of contractors, is that on our New Haven
Yes.
website?
Yes.
Okay.
Asked Lil to bring a copy of the postcard today, so I think the point is well taken. We've got about 200 contractors in the program. There's more work in the city than we have workers and contractors right now. I think you've heard this from others. So we need help with recruiting. So we gave this to, or we got others. We know contractors. You know, this is the energy efficiency program, but to Will's point, we have the sheltered market, we have the bidding process, the training. So you know more people than we do, and we brought these for reasons.
Committee members, any questions? Alder Miller.
Thank you for the presentation. This is, I didn't know about, I knew this existed, but I didn't know much about it. Can you just explain what the money is actually for, the 400,000?
Sure. The way that we submitted this grant application was to cover capacity building for the team members, which we, if anybody needs increased staff, for the small contractors development, whom deferred progressive action, emerge CT, then they can utilize dollars to do that, but specifically around training individuals and developing the framework and the design of the program.
So it's mostly for the city to develop the program. So will there be staff hired as part of this on our city?
There can be.
And could you just talk a little bit about what the outreach would look like, if you know, or?
Yeah, so formerly, I was in a customer and illuminating. Formerly, I was an employee of Eversource, and I worked on the community outreach and education team in energy efficiency and electrification. So I have a strong background in grassroots tops outreach, specifically around programs like this. So part of the outreach for the community would be working with the existing channels of communication that we already have, working with community-based partnerships, whether it's houses of worship, local organizations, to number one, do a train-the-trainer models. We're educating the community leaders so they understand what the program and services are about, what is available for everybody, and then crafting messages and marketing tools to information, get it out there. So that would primarily be what we would use the for when it comes to Junta for Progressive Action. When it comes to Emerge CT, we're looking at increasing some of the skills and job opportunities for the members of our organization. So it would be about training them on how the program works, what weatherization means, and helping them, sort of deploy the message in a grassroots neighborhood canvassing, community education forums, type of strategies.
I appreciate the information. I think we often forget that there's a cultural component to outreach, and that we need to do outreach in ways that are culturally competent. And for example, I represent Fairhaven. We are not an email community. People do not read email. We are email. So it's just something to think about in general, and how we can partner and how we can have the messaging. That would be excellent.
Older, because we want to be able to reach the community in the way that they understand what we're trying to set to be successful. And I see that with our contractors. When I get the different contractors, the black and brown contractors who come from a different cultural background, they don't understand a lot of times just our procurement process. And being able to relate that process in a manner that they understand, I have to understand how to relate. And this is why we're successful. We have Junta on board with us, but we're also looking for other partners to be able to allow us to integrate into the community, so to speak.
We'll also do stakeholder mapping early on, so we understand what the stakeholders are in the community, roles they play, how it is engaging with residents and neighbors.
But your help will be gratefully appreciated.
Any other questions? Comments?
Thank you. It's phase one. Is there a phase two?
We hope so.
Okay, we come down to phase one.
Sure. So phase one is about design and
Okay.
Exploring some of the opportunities and possibly piloting it with a few homes so that the contractors are getting their experience. So that's what we're talking about, really trying to increase upwards of 15% of the houses within that neighborhood and starting to replicate what we've started, into other areas.
If you get phase one, if you get awarded phase one, does phase two become easier?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we were awarded a technical assistant grant to help us with our phase one application. So the program, they're aware of the interest of partnership.
Now the contractors list, is this for work in New Haven? So in other words, if I'm a contractor and I'm not on your list, does that mean I cannot do any work in New Haven, or is that how that works?
No.
No, okay, I just didn't understand that.
No, the contractors list is one for our department heads. If they're looking for someone to come in and paint the room, the sheltered markets, you have to go to the list first. Don't call your friend.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you're a developer and you're looking for contractors, you can go to our list and look for contractors, and our list will say these are painters, these are.
So you have to be on the list.
You have to be on the list.
Good, that's great.
Want to be on.
But residents can look too.
Oh, of course.
If I need a room painted, I
Yes.
can go on and look.
Yes.
Look on the list.
Yes.
Right.
And it's updated every month.
Thank you, Alder.
I think you may.
To, again, to clarify, so any resident can come onto this website and look for one of these approved contractors.
Yes.
For better work, because that's good to know. There's,
Absolutely.
they're harder and harder to find because everyone seems to be busy. The workforce seems to be scarce. So I think that's a message we really need to get through to even our residents. So thank you. Alder Street, did you have some?
Yeah, they may have said it, I may have missed it, but what my question is, the list, how would a contractor get on the list?
they can, if you can take a look on this card and tell them to call. The application is online in English and in Spanish. They can call our office. They can come into our office, or they can send an email saying, I'd like an application.
Correct. All right, thank you.
The QR code.
Yes, yes, yes. We're upgrading. We have a QR code now too.
Getting fancy.
Yeah.
You know, workforce capacity is very dear to my heart. It's I work in workforce development programs for the sustainability industry. I work with high schools and construction, making sure that the next generation of construction workers have these sustainable building best practices when they graduate, so that they can partner and get employed by some of these wonderful organizations. And Will's contractor in the city of New Haven worked with us this summer on a comprehensive summer energy training program for these young ex-professionals to join these organizations, to join these companies on this. So it's, deep roots.
And if you'd like to discuss the program, further, please don't hesitate to contact me, because there's a lot that we do, and as I said, a lot of times we don't advertise or promote ourselves as much as we probably should, and hear that we don't know exactly what we're doing. So please don't hesitate to call, because there is a lot that we're doing, especially in trying to upgrade capacity. High school kids involved and interested in construction.
Sounds like we need a workshop. And you said you do outreach to the high school.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I'm just gonna, it's $400,000. There's no match from the city. If we do staff it though, that would be some funds. I just want to be clear that would be part of that. That would be paid through the 400.
Right. Correct.
For special funds. And then hopefully there's room for expansion to other areas of New Haven as well. So this is a good start.
That's the goal. Yeah. We do well the first round, and we're funded for additional communities.
Keep us posted to whether or not you receive this grant, and if you do, maybe you can come back. And you're welcome anytime you want to comment and share any information, just let us know, and we'd be happy to host a workshop or anything, public hearing, whatever.
I'm a great talker, don't say that.
So much. With that being said, any other questions from committee members? I think none. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have 3 items on the agenda that we will vote on once we see if anyone else from the public would like to speak on this. We do have a sign up, but I don't believe is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? And for a second, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If you would like to speak on this item, please come forward. Seeing no one, do I hear a motion to close the public portion of this session?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of closing the public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Public portion is closed. Do I hear a motion to move the workshop?
Madam Chairman, move the portion of this,
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. This is a read and file, so any discussion on this workshop? I know we had a little bit of discussion before we moved on to the general agenda, but if you have any other comments, please share.
I'll just reiterate, I think I said before, which is that I think it really is not acceptable. Multiple requests to register voters, that we get, half answers to questions. So, and we also need to understand that the bigger picture of education outreach needs to be start beyond just this primary or this election or any particular cycle, but to understand really what's happening more broadly. So I would be in favor of identifying a future meeting where we could have that discussion with the registrar.
Thank you, Alderman Miller. Any other discussion?
I agree with my colleague.
I agree with my colleague.
Okay, thank you, Alder Singer.
Madam Chair, I also agree with my colleague, and the registrar office definitely needs to answer some of these questions. My neighbor, I haven't received my card that will tell you where to go. Where to go. And, I think Tuesday's election is already, people have not received that card. So the office is not here to answer the question, and I'm frustrated about it because so my constituent has not received the call. Maybe what else on there? I mean, there's gaps in it. Why didn't go off? We need these questions to answer. So I know our next meeting, I was looking at my calendar here for October would be the 5th. It's too late to invite them back to come to this question that we can. I would like to make an official request to you, Madam Chair, if we can have voter registration office to come in.
Thank you, noted. Discussion. Further discussion. I'll just add, it was upsetting to learn that the website was only updated today. We count, a lot of residents do count on the website, and I did receive calls saying, why is the old information still on the website? So I'm happy to hear it was updated, but the question is what took so long and why? And if it's not the registrar, is it IT? Who is it? Because we need this information to be readily available to our residents, particularly if we want them to vote. And just to state, part of the registrar's responsibility is to inform the public, and if they can't come before us, they need to be informing the public. I will consider the workshop for October 5th to take place. I think it would be a great opportunity for they to come before us to see how the primary went, what maybe went wrong, what went right, and what to expect for the November election. So I will keep this committee updated on that progress, and we'll see what happens. Any other discussion? Alder Streeter.
Well, I think that's an excellent idea, given the fact that, like I said, all this last minute stuff for the September election, I just see it's going to be some issues.
We need to encourage our residents to go out and vote on Tuesday, whether they like who's on the ballot or not. It is our right, and they need to go out and vote, and we need to encourage that. So I guess it's all of our responsibility to encourage that. So let's do our best to make sure that they are as informed as possible, and hopefully the message gets out there.
The older people, it's kind of, they don't like last minute. They're set in their way to go in a certain place. Like, you're not here, you're there. Well, the first thing they're going to say is, well, I know nothing downtown saying that. So they have them not going to want to see you. So they're going to be calling. So it might not get through, or might not.
Yes, and I guess you're the phone. Hope that is not a busy signal. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, colleagues, and the only thing we could do is help in spreading the word. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's take a vote to read and file. All in favor of reading and filing, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? The ayes have it. Do I hear a motion for item number 1?
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. Item number 1
is regarding that $10 million for the Whaley revitalization. Is there any discussion? Alder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we heard the presentation, Whaley Avenue, it's definitely need a place to upgrade and the dedicated cycle lane. So hopefully this comes to fruition that there's some improvement to the streetscape in that neighborhood beautification. Secondly, in the Wednesday project, it's it was presented, all goes well. In the affordable piece of it, I'm all in favor of that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder. Any further discussion? Yeah, it sounds like a very exciting project. I think it's one that we've been waiting for a long time for Whaley Avenue. It's been discussed numerous times. There are many accidents, and there are accidents with pedestrians and cyclists, and we need to make that road safer. And the revitalization is much needed. And I was happy to see that our group in St. Luke's, that there is affordability that this board has requested. The true deep affordability for our residents, to maintain our diversity, to maintain the folks that have lived in the city for a long time who are being pretty much, affordability is a problem. You can't afford the market rate apartments on some salaries. So to see that there was 0 to 30% AMI and 12 units for that, and 31 to 50% AMI for 27 units, really is what is selling me on this proposal. So if there's no further discussion, we can take a vote. Seeing none, all in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The item carries. Do I hear a motion to move item number 2?
Item number 2.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this for Department of Energy? I think, we heard a lot of, we had a phase 1 sounds like a really good opportunity for contractors to get trained on the most up-to-date energy efficiencies that are out there. And what is impressive to me is that any resident of the city can look them up and know that they're getting someone who has the skills and the training to deliver these opportunities for energy efficiency. So I personally didn't even know about it, and I'm happy to hear that I have, we have a source to go to on the website to get that information. Anyway, I'm in favor of this grant, and I hope they go forward. Any further discussion? All in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The item carries. That concludes the items on our agenda. I appreciate you all being here as always and taking the time to review the items, develop questions, and be ready for the meeting. So thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
The motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Thank you, colleagues. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Right. I feel right. Yeah, I got you.
I did it.
You did it?
Thanks.
No, you didn't. Come on, man.
Oh, I